Enter a harsh medieval world and battle for your life against 7 savage barbarians, all armed, all dangerous, all fighting to be the Weapon Lord. But to win the Demon Lord's tournament and fulfill the prophecy of the Warrior's Moon, you must defeat the biggest, baddest, most skilled killers ever seen in a Super NES fighting game. This is WeaponLord from Visual Concepts, published by Namco, released in 1995, and it is indeed a beat-em-up for the Super Nintendo. One of the last ones we might be looking at for the year, if I remember right. Generally considered to be the basis for the Soul Edge and Soul Calibur series, this game here, since it was Namco. Also available on the Genesis as a weapons-based fighter game with various gory moves and a deep counterattack system. Had some mixed reviews, criticism going towards graphics and animation, where the gameplay was esteemed for its innovation and depth. Many critics remarked that the complexity of the gameplay would make the game too daunting for all but experienced fighters. It is a standard 2D fighting game, has some difference in mechanics and aesthetic choices. Thrust blocking, an aggressive blocking system similar to Street Fighter III's parry system. Introduced are deflect moves, a counterattack maneuver that each character has. Certain special moves known as takedowns, knock opponents onto their back, and you can follow up with additional attacks while the foe is on the floor. In addition, when certain attacks are performed or on an opponent in mid-swing, the player can cut off a piece of their clothing or hair. You can finish off matches using death combo attacks that have a gory effect. WeaponLord's fighters possess between 9 and 12 special moves each and can be executed in several ways. Sweeping motions on the D-pad followed by an action button, charge moves, finally an attack button, or hold down moves where the player must first hold down an attack button followed by a directional movement and finish it by releasing the button. There's a password and blah blah blah. Reviewing the Genesis version, EGM was divided. Two of the reviewers panned the game for choppy animation and poor control, with one concluding that the concepts are there but the game isn't. The other two also heavily criticized the animation and control, but argued that some gamers would feel the innovative fighting techniques make the game worthwhile in spite of its flaws. Let's see. GamePro complimented the graphics, sound effects, and variety of moves, but they criticized the limited number of playable characters and concluded that while the advanced gameplay may scare away beginning barbarians, others will appreciate the deep controls. A different GamePro reviewer made similar remarks of the Super NES version, commenting that the combat system effectively did away with cheap techniques such as corner traps and simple throws, but could be daunting for many players. Next Gen remarked that the Super NES version looks better than the Genesis version, but has the same choppy animation. In a retrospective review, Allgame praised the deep countering system, said that the complexity of the game may turn off newcomers. Reviewer Scott Allen Marriott, we heard about him last time, said it was not easy to pick up and play like Mortal Kombat, and then it's designed for the hardcore fan rather than those new to the genre. In addition, he mentioned the game's computer opponents were far too difficult for novices, and wrote that the game's detailed character design was distracting and that the animations were choppy, as well as faulting the game for having fewer playable characters than Street Fighter II. Despite that, he recommended as a must-have title for a fighting game enthusiast. I actually kind of like WeaponLord. Of some of the fighting games we've seen, I think it's probably one of my favorite. I do think it requires a little more getting into than a game like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, but I think that's part of what makes it good. You don't always just want to sit down and, do some button mashing kind of thing like you could do. Not that you button mash in Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you want something that you've got to put a little more into, and I think WeaponLord works.